When might the return of Christ be? According to one popular theory, it could be very soon. The 6 days equals 6,000 year theory would have big things happening in the next 4 to 12 years, which could mean that soon we could be enjoying the 1,000-year reign of Christ with the Great Tribulation period far behind us. Just a memory. But since this is only theorizing based on a few scriptures, it could be quite wrong. I'll provide a few details shortly. First, let us consider the fact that similar mistakes of calculation have been made by many Bible teachers over the centuries. So we must continue to study, pray for the Lord's guidance, and as we are encouraged to do so many times in scriptures, we need to remain alert. Continuing on, a very large book could be written about the many predictions of when Christ would return that did not come true. I've only tried to share some of the more well-known or more recent predictions. After reading various end times authors that have written in the last 200 years, I can truly say that it's in our nature to want to make the scriptures fit in such a way as to have Christ's return to happen within one's own lifetime. As most writers I've read felt strongly the return of Christ had to be soon, based on what they understood and the condition of the world in their day. Unfortunately, the conditions of the world have continued to devolve into a godless society that worships themselves and not the Creator. It is likely to get a lot worse before it gets better at the return of Christ. And since I am sure the rapture comes at the end of the tribulation period, several other posts go into the reasons for my coming to this conclusion. I am grateful knowing that the wrath of God is clearly directed to those who receive the mark of the beast, and God has shown us He is perfectly capable of protecting His people. Examples would be the plagues of Egypt, where the last 7 of the 10 plagues did not affect the children of Israel. In Ezekiel 9, 3-7, we see those previously marked by God being spared the wrath that took the lives of the others in Jerusalem. But getting back to the subject of date setting, I do find myself doing the same thing here in a blog post, October 2011. In this long post, which is also a YouTube video, End Time Thoughts and Theories Summary My Current Understanding, I have a section where I discuss the theory of time allotted to mankind and the current heaven and earth to last only 7,000 years. This is usually called the millennial day theory or the Sabbath millennium theory. It makes sense to say approximately 2,000 years, as Jesus himself said it in Matthew 24:22. And unless those days have been cut short, no flesh would have been saved. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those days will be cut short. So even if it was going to be 2,000 years, it might be less than 2,000 years because of that statement. Just saying. Most Bible scholars would agree the earth was created around 4004 BC, plus or minus a few years. So why hasn't the 6,000 years expired? That would have been like almost 20 years ago. It could very well be the inability to accurately determine when the beginning was by piecing together the many genealogies and the length of all the historical periods recorded in the Old Testament. Many have tried, and they come up with differing number of years. Another explanation of why the 6,000 years has yet to expire as of August 2023 is that the rule of man did not start until Adam and Eve sinned and they were put out of the Garden of Eden. But I've not found any scripture to support this explanation. Calling a period of time the rule of man is entirely speculation and not a doctrine taught in the Bible. What it all comes down to is we have 2 points of reference that we could use to determine when Jesus Christ is likely to return and set up his kingdom for 1,000 years. The first is 6,000 years from creation, or the fall of man in the Garden of Eden. And second is 2,000 years from when Jesus Christ left and before his return. If we count forward for both the fall of man, 25, 35 years after creation, note, this is only a number I picked to fit with Christ's ministry being 4,000 years later and with his ascension being sometime around 30 to 34 AD or 4,000 years later. It could be much less or several decades longer, but it had to be well before Seth was born, when Adam was 130 years old and out of the garden for some time. Note, the Bible does not tell us how old Adam and Eve were when they were removed from the Garden of Eden. And if this theory was valid, this could align with the date of the crucifixion of Christ. Possible dates include, but not limited to, Passover, 30 AD on a Thursday afternoon. Dr. Floyd Nolan Jones in his book, The Chronology of the Old Testament. Or 33 AD on a Friday afternoon. Bishop James Ussher's date in the Annals of the World. Unfortunately, there's a lot of different possibilities that historians have come up with when it comes to either the birth of Christ or the year of his crucifixion. I've spent many hours researching this topic, and I'm still praying for God to show me whose conclusions are valid and how all the pieces of this puzzle fit together. And at the same time, remembering to rely upon the Bible as the ultimate authority. Next, you would add 2,000 years to determine the end of the sixth day and the beginning of the seventh day, the 1,000-year kingdom. But not being sure of the exact year of creation or what year Christ ascended into heaven, or if this theory actually means anything, it would be unwise to predict what year that Christ might return.